All right, everybody. We got another very special guest for you. A returning special guest. It's been too long. Welcome back, Daniel Kalban.
Hey,
Welcome, Daniel.
Hey,
good to be
Daniel.
here.
Yeah, glad to have you back. And I would say a little bit of a change of pace from the last time we talked with Night Wrath, right?
Oh, yeah, that's a while ago because I've had
Yeah.
because between that since then and now we've had American Dreams do a Kickstarter on trade.
Yep.
Mhm.
American Dreams just picked up a Band of Bards
Yep.
and was in comic shops last year.
Mhm.
We had Rook and Knight 1 come out on Kickstarter last year. Now we're doing this one.
That's awesome. And I mean, I love Night Wrath. I know we got to talk about it, and I feel like it was too long ago, but I'm glad you got
Yeah,
to
that
come
was-
back.
2
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Like maybe 2.5 because I was doing that like around March and April of 2022.
Yeah. Well, this book that we're going to talk about today is really interesting. So your next Kickstarter is Sherlock Holmes: The Phantom Masquerade.
Mhm.
And I just we're looking at the pre-launch page and stuff that's coming to Kickstarter, but the art is just absolutely fantastic. And so we're getting a Sherlock Holmes book, but would you say like a little more crime noir than detective, or
I say it's more of a thriller because
more of a thriller? Okay.
it's not just Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
It's Sherlock Holmes versus the Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, which is awesome.
And I was, I like to say this is not your typical Sherlock Holmes Phantom of the Opera pastiche, which is basically you take Holmes, you drop him into the event of the original novel. This is more of a sequel to the original Phantom of the Opera novel than most of those kind of pastiches. So this is like, it's a sequel to Phantom of the Opera. It's also a sequel to The Final Problem and The Mystery of the Empty House of the Sherlock Holmes canon.
Mm-hmm.
Just continuing on those story threads a little bit.
So I mean, I think we might have talked about this a little before. You've always been a big theater fan, right? In New York. So you're kind of combining this love for theater. And were you always a Sherlock Holmes fan too?
Yeah, since I was a kid, because I think what really started it, other than a mother who encouraged reading, was that when I was a little kid, you might remember this Wishbone series, Wishbone.
Yep.
And there was not only an episode of him being Sherlock Holmes doing Hound of the Baskervilles, because of course, they also did a Phantom of the Opera one. And Phantom of the Opera wise, there's a family story that goes with my mom worked for the publisher that published the companion book to the musical, which we have somewhere.
Wow, that's cool.
And so she was part of the publisher who did that. And so when she was very pregnant with me, she and my dad saw the original Broadway company of Phantom of the Opera. So I may have heard that cast in utero.
Wow.
And so I came by my Phantom fandom probably through that as well.
Some people like put headphones on the pregnant belly to like get some like soothing music or something. You were just hearing Phantom of the Opera.
I was getting Andrew Lloyd Webber orchestrations full blast from the Majestic Theater.
Timpani drums and shit. Just boom.
And it's the only thing, I only got to see the show once, and I was like 10 or 11. It was like 5th or 6th grade, and went to see it on Broadway, and that was the first and last time I saw Phantom, because other than the 25th anniversary production they have on Blu-ray, which I've watched a bunch of times, because I tried to go see it when they were about to close, and I couldn't get a ticket, either through the lottery or cheaply through anything, and I tried.
Yeah.
I know I've seen it. I think it was in like a classroom setting. Did they do a movie of it? Was that
there is a film version of the musical? Yes, the 2004 version. It's okay.
Yeah.
I went and saw Gerard Butler, the most beautiful tenor singing voice in the world.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's Gerard
You
Butler.
watch Lindsay Ellis. Lindsay Ellis has a great comparison of Phantom portrayals before the Lloyd Webber musical and after, and she just rips Gerard Butler a new one.
I feel like maybe
awesome.
I watched something else, like an old version of the play or something, because 2004 I would have been a junior in high school, so I don't think it was then. But yeah, I'm trying to think of how I saw it. I know I've seen it before. That's the thing.
There's that. There's also the 1925 silent version with Lon Chaney, which is my preferred film version.
That might be it.
There's also a version of Claude Rains from the 40s, which was like the Universal big budget remake of the 1925 film. It changes a lot of things. There's also the Hammer horror film. There's like the 1990s version of Charles Dance as the Phantom. There's, of course, the slasher version with Freddy Krueger as the Phantom. which also isn't very good.
Yeah, I think.
I just seen clips of it. I'm like, this is terrible.
Yeah, this is nobody asked for this.
It's really because the Charles Dance version from the 90s, which was a miniseries, was done initially supposed to be a musical by Mario Yassin, the guy who did Nine and Grand Hotel and the musical of Titanic, which came out the same year as the film Titanic, but it's two different storylines. They were going to be on Broadway first, and then Andrew Lloyd Webber beat them to it. So they turned that into the miniseries, and then they turned that back into another musical. It's convoluted. It's crazy. So there's like two other major Phantom musicals out there, other than those two, and of course the Lloyd Webber one is the big one.
Yeah, that's the one everybody knows, right?
This one with Robert Englund, just the poster is phenomenal.
It's terrible.
I think I watched the 1943 version because I'm looking at stills of it, and that's got to be the one.
Yeah, it's the Claude Rains version.
Yeah,
it's just not as good as I say. The 1925 version is the one closest to the original novel. It's just also takes a lot of liberties, especially at the end, because originally they had the ending more like the book, and then of course Universal went, no, it has to be a different ending because we have to punish evil. We can't have the nuance.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why you then have the freaking carriage chase.
So with your story, Daniel, you wanted to take the ending and go further with it, and how do you want to do that? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I can talk about without revealing too much. So
right.
It's 1890, so it's 10 years after the events of Phantom of the Opera. Remember, this is mostly Sherlock is the protagonist, so it's 10 years after the events of Phantom. Holmes is back from the dead for like 6 months or so. So this is like spring, April of 1894 is what I put it as. Let me check my own script.
You got to get the date right. People will be upset.
1895, because I know that Sherlockians will go, anybody got back by 1894?
Right, exactly.
So he's back. But he's a bit testy. He hadn't had a big case the last few months. He's back on the infamous cocaine addiction. Let's watch this annoyance. So they go to the opera at Covent Garden, where the Comtesse Chagny, also known as Christine Daae, is giving a performance. And after her performance, they see her suddenly look very scared because she hears from a box in Covent Garden a familiar voice. And when they address this when she and the Comte Raoul address this with one of the local stagehands, they tell her the box was not sold that night. Or was sold, but no one was there. And now they have a young son, Philippe, named after Raoul's brother who died in the original novel. And he wants to, be less of a shut-in because they're diplomats basically in London from Paris. And so they allow him to go to a park with his governess, and from there he disappears. So now the race is on. And it's a race between the Holmes and the Phantom to find the kid. And so this first issue is just the setup, I like to say, but it's a very fun setup because you get to see some of the kind of psychology of the characters as well, especially because there's a scene there's a reason why my tagline, Obsession Never Dies, which is a joke on the Lloyd Webber sequel musical to Phantom, which is not good. So I tried to see it for once on PBS. I couldn't get through the first act. And then my dad and I decided, after I wrote the script for this, the first script, to just watch the Love Never Dies all the way through on Broadway HD, and they were like, "Oh, this is terrible."
So Chris has got a couple pages pulled up, or you have some pages on the.
I set up the first pages from.
So can you talk about the art a little bit? Who's doing the art?
Jeremiah Scheich did. Jeremiah Scheich did the art. He and I have been trying to work with something for a while. I was doing a Western with him, and that kind of fell for the wayside as we went through other projects. But I reached out to him for this, and we said, "Yeah, sure." Originally, it was going to be black and white, and then someone says to me, I was showing him the lettered black and white art, and he's like, "It should be in color." And so I discussed it should be like a simple color scheme, like not so many complicated. So we went with my American Dreams colorist, Warnia Kesa Dewa, to do this simple color scheme. And It's very simple here. It gets more complex as you go for the issue, but I don't want to show those pages because that's, spoilers.
Right. Got to keep those under wrap.
Yeah.
I'd say, it's a little bit more that you have some blues in there, right, with the black and the whites and gray.
Yeah, they're influenced by I think it's a James Tinian book about alien abductions.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say it reminds me of the Blue Book.
That's the one. Yeah, that was their inspiration for our going more simple of our color choices.
Very cool. The art is absolutely amazing, and I think it fits this type of story like really good. For 1890s, I mean, that's the setting right there. That's amazing art.
Yeah. So doing this book, I mean, you've been known for a bit now for doing independent superhero books, and I kind of like when you told me you were doing this book because I'm like, this is much more Daniel's personality coming out. At least the one I know of Daniel.
Well, I love superheroes, but I do love my classic literature.
Yeah.
Because in part because I always wanted to read more comics as a kid back when you could get them from every freaking newsstand in New York.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was like, "No, you have to read real books because English baby."
Right.
But like I do love my superheroes, but I do have this strong theater and book background as well, which I had to bring a little more to the fore for this. And it's a change of pace because like I've been doing some like horror stuff because I did that Cthulhu Mage Wonderland and Holiday Spirits stuff. So horror's not my best strong suit. So I said this is not exactly a horror book. It's more of a thriller.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mystery thriller. Just happens to involve one of the most notorious monsters in the horror canon. But he's a complex person. You can't really call Eric the Phantom a monster because he's such a complicated.
Right.
Because he's not undead. He's a disfigured human, a very talented, almost trying to say Mary Sue-ish human being. But he's also a terrifying character because he can be like very, calm, charismatic, and all of a sudden he'll be like sniveling, whiny, angry son of a bitch.
Yeah. Right. It's like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of personality.
But it's more like mood shifts because he never got shown appropriate, attention and love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's really interesting because remember at the end of the original novel, Christine shows him that love, and he allegedly dies.
Mm-hmm.
Because of course we're bringing him back here, so he's forced. We explain later on, how that works. But so we have to go. What's the next step with him as a character as well? And I do say Obsession never dies because there will be things happening in this series that shows he may have learned some lessons, but some lessons don't exactly stick.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also not just his obsessions we have to worry about, it's also Holmes's. Because Holmes has ghosts of his own.
Right.
So he's going to have to confront throughout this series.
So I noticed a couple things here that I'm gonna ask you about, but I have a feeling you're not gonna answer me. So we're looking at one of the covers here.
Yes.
First, you name it the Crimson Casebook of Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
And then second, I see a new comic imprint version from what you used in the past.
Well,
in your perfect world, this the thing funds throughout all of it. It does really great. Mm-hmm. Do you have like more Sherlock Holmes stuff you want to do?
Yes. I have the sequel in my head.
Yeah, nice.
But it's going to be a different famous monster or horror character each time.
That's really cool.
Like the second, like I will say here, like if this whole series successfully funds or is picked up or whatnot, I want next one to be Jekyll and Hyde for reasons I do not want to reveal. But I already have like the plot-ish already in mind for that sequel series.
That's really cool.
As for Castle Thunder, well, I technically share Atlas Studios with Gabe Escobar Santos. So we kind of made a gentleman's agreement that, more Liberty versus stuff would stay with Atlas, and this we might write an imprint within an imprint. Just to be, fair and on the up and, make things evenly shareable.
Cool.
Understood. And since we got them pulled up, I'm assuming when people go to back this book, and hopefully you all check it out and hit the pre-launch and then eventually back it, we've got a couple different covers. you're presenting 3 right now because you're being cagey about the last one. So
I was told to be cagey about the last one, but it's a fun one.
but let's talk a little bit about the covers. Like, who'd you get to do these covers? And
So that's by Vasco Giacchini, who you might remember did a cover for Rook and Knight back. He did like the B cover Rook and Knight. So this is his cover for Sherlock Holmes Phantom Masquerade. I do want to note a detail that I had to tell each. Oh, and that's about each one because we designed Sherlock and Watson first because we don't actually see the Phantom until towards the end of the first issue. And I'd had a talk with Jay and Vasco and Ben and our mystery artist about how the mask had to be very strict, saying we can't do the Underlord Weber mask for a very important reason. We'll be sued.
Yeah, you have to avoid that.
yeah.
Yeah, so I had to check each mask, like, no, it has to be like, show on here. It's the full mask where it's like this, not like this.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But this was like a concept I had in my mind. Like, I think Vasco was the first one for Vasco and Ben were the first people I did who actually put in covers, and this is Vasco's. And I already had in mind this whole Phantom with the cape with kind of London inside it and with, Sherlock playing the violin.
Mm-hmm. No, it's really
it's
cool.
also important because the violin is also a Phantom-related instrument, because if you read the original book, he plays the violin for Christine at her father's grave before terrifying the hell out of Raoul.
Mm. That's awesome. That's a cool connection.
Yeah,
definitely. And then we got this one.
That's our main cover by Jeremiah and Warnia. And that's the Covent Garden Opera House famous window in the background. So again, another opera connection.
It's really cool.
And then we got this one.
And that's Benjamin W. Morse's cover. Again, we're having more of that mask versus a mask. And Ben also colored the mystery cover, but I've not been completely permitted by people helping me my Kickstarter yet to do that whole reveal yet, because we want to be a big ta-da. And definitely rising name in comics, though. So,
and everybody out there should give Ben all the work because he's awesome.
He is.
Yeah, I mean, I think the project looks amazing, Daniel. So when can we expect this to hit Kickstarter? I know the pre-launch page is up there.
Yeah, the pre-launch is planned for the launch is planned for September 17th.
Okay.
The idea is to have it launch in time for Baltimore, where I'll be, so I can also hand out the cards for the Kickstarter. I had the cards for Terrificon last month. Cool. Same link, so I guess just share it.
Yeah, just hand them out. Throw them out to people. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, it's exciting. No, I think it looks really good. I think that's a cool concept to have Sherlock Holmes and like these horror icons, like you talked about, these classic stories that.
And I want to also shout out Justin Birch as our letterer and Jerome Gagnon, who did the logo, because either yesterday or today is Letterer Appreciation Day.
Nice.
As of this recording.
Awesome.
Oh, nice. Those guys don't serve. Jerome doesn't serve appreciation. What's he do?
Yeah.
Like everything.
He's only on every Kickstarter I ever back.
He does like all the logos. That Holiday Spirits logo.
That Travis Gibb does. It's like, what does he do? Only everything. And Justin Birch, he's like one Matt Cave's utility letterers, and he does letters all other indie books too.
Yeah.
To all the letters out there, I'm just making jokes. I love you all.
We appreciate you. Yes. You do a lot of good work.
No, I think it does look cool. And do you have it planned out like a 4-issue series? How do you have this kind of?
I have planned roughly 5 to 6 because I did pitch it around to a couple places, but I guess but my brain it says it's a 5 to 6 issue series.
Cool.
Because certain characters and you have certain hits, certain beats. Like there's another character there from a classic novel, which I won't reveal because you got to read it, who's a major part of the plot too. So, and this is a character earlier in the Victorian era, literary canon, except now aged up to where he would be in the 1890s. So,
okay.
So, Mike, Sherlock Holmes versus a classic monster. Who you picking?
Probably Dracula.
There was a Sherlock Holmes versus Dracula novel.
There was one.
But I do want to do that eventually because.
I mean, you want somebody that's going to be like the same intelligence level. Dracula's been around so long that he can't help but acquire. Like someone like Frankenstein's monster is like, okay, His
Oh,
lumbering
but
up.
if you look at the classic novel of Frankenstein,
Uh-huh.
the character of Adam, aka Frankenstein's monster, is no dummy.
Okay.
Quite
So
smart.
yeah. Okay.
And coincidentally, both Sherlock and Frankenstein's monster have both been played by Benedict Cumberbatch. Benedict Cumberbatch. And Johnny Lee Miller. In fact, Johnny Lee Miller and Benedict Cumberbatch would swap the roles in the British production they did of Frankenstein a few years ago. That was on streaming during COVID.
Wow.
And they did it was like because basically they would swap, I guess, each night or each performance. One would be the monster, one would be Dr. Frankenstein.
That's awesome.
It was a really good production too.
That's really cool.
I watched it with. I think I watched it with Cumberbatch as the monster and Diane Lee Miller as the.
Wow, that's really cool.
Because they gave you the option of which performance you could watch.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's awesome. Then Frankenstein's monster.
I'm thinking Creature from the Black Lagoon because I just want to see Sherlock Holmes in the Black Lagoon.
I'd love to do that one, except that's Creature from the Black Lagoon is one of the few characters of classic horror, which is actually a movie copyright character.
Oh man!
Oh, he's still copyrighted. I didn't know that.
That's a Universal Monsters, Universal specific creation.
Oh wow!
Now his archetype you might be able to play around with, but can't be specifically the Creature from Black Lagoon.
Invisible Man would be a good one.
That works because H.G. Wells.
Yeah, H.G. Wells. Yeah.
You know what, Universal? You need to do something with the Black Lagoon monster.
Yeah.
I know there's people who do like the archetype because you can do it without saying without being the exact design or saying it's the Creature from the Black Lagoon, but you can't.
When you look at the history, that's all Swamp Thing and Man Thing are.
Yeah, that's it. Right. Like we could do this.
We do this. Just like
we have a lot of Creature from the Black Lagoon.
I mean, they're doing that somewhat with Creature Commandos, right? With one of the characters, I believe, is a Creature from the Black Lagoon equivalent. Which is funny because you mentioned this because when I was a kid, there's a yearly festival here in Brooklyn called Celebrate Brooklyn, and one year they had Creature of the Black Lagoon on the big screen in the band shell at Prospect Park, but they had a live orchestra not only doing a live score to it, they overdubbed.
Oh wow.
And they were hysterical. So that's the only way I've seen Creature of the Black Lagoon. So if I ever see the actual movie, I'll probably be like, "This is not as funny."
Yeah.
I get that. I love that movie, but I understand your logic there.
Yeah.
But it's very funny because you mentioned this, going back to Universal and Phantom of the Opera. The classic Lon Chaney version is in the public domain, and technically it's been in the public domain for decades because back when you had to re-upright the copyright every few years or so, Universal forgot to do it. So the 1925 version is the only Phantom of the Opera that's in the public domain.
Wow.
That is the 29 release, but yes. Because you can't do it with the Claude Ray's version because, still it's released plus 75, 95 years?
So you're telling me you can use this guy right here?
I could use the Lon Chaney version if I wanted to, but I'm not because that's an easy way out.
Yeah.
We actually have not designed how the Phantom looks like under the mask yet.
Yeah.
But I know I want it to be as disturbing as possible.
That one gives me nightmares.
That's why I pulled it up for you.
I know. Thank you.
Actually, they say that when they first released that film, they had to have smelling salts on hand in case people fainted. And it's really funny because you watch it today, because I actually have a Blu-ray of it with different soundtracks into it, including my preferred soundtrack to it. And when he turns to face Mary Philbin as Christine, it's still pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
Kind of warning, but still pretty terrifying to a modern audience. Because we know it, because we're expecting it, but just the reveal and the action works.
Yeah.
I want to bring a modern horror movie to the people back then.
Maybe like, how this get past the code?
Yeah. Right.
Actually, I can't say that because the Hays Code didn't exist for like another 10 years after that.
And not even like the worst one, Mike. I want to bring like a tame one by today's standards.
Yeah.
Or maybe even like Nightmare on Elm Street or something. And just be like, here you go. And then watch them like, what the fuck is going on?
They're like, why is there sound to this?
Yeah, why is there sound and color? What? They'll think they're TVs.
Well, funny you mentioned that because, again, 1925 version, there is a Technicolor sequence of the Masquerade Ball.
Okay.
You do see Lon Chaney in the Red Death costume walking down the replica of the Paris Opera House stairs in full color.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
So I think one of the first. I don't think it was the first, but I think it was one of the first.
I think people would be more scared that you brought back this like disc or like device that plays pictures without being attached to anything, and it'd be like if you brought back a
Yeah,
laptop, they'd
but
be like
then
more freaked out.
but then I'd be a magician and I would rule over them with an iron fist, and it'd be all
Yeah,
fine, Mike.
There you go. You'd be all
That's
right.
never gone wrong in the past before.
Yeah, I don't see where that could go. Oh,
It should happen 13 years after the Phantom of the Opera release in 1925. That's not.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, Sherlock Holmes, The Phantom Masquerade. Daniel, I'm really excited for it. You'll have about a couple weeks, everybody, to check it out. Get notified on the pre-launch page, and if you're in Baltimore, you'll be there, right?
Yeah, I think I'm table I8.
Okay.
They're doing the whole layout, I think, because I remember last year they went up to H, and H was in this like side area. So I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah. Hopefully you're in the main area.
I don't think they're taking like each section of that main area and just making its own little thing.
Okay.
Because they never went up to I that I can tell, because I went for some past maps, and I'm like, I only went up to H last year, so I'm going,
Let's go to Baltimore sometime. That seems like a cool show.
It's a great show. I think because it's the 25th anniversary, maybe they're having a bigger artist alley this year.
Oh, that's cool.
No, that's my guess, because maybe they instead of having one wing, they're gonna have like both.
Yeah, they're gonna have some more stuff going on. Cool.
And if people want to follow you online, do you do? I know you do social media. So what's your social media?
It's Daniel Kalban on Facebook, at Daniel Kalban on what we will call Twitter, because we're not going to call it what the Masquerade wants to call it.
The Masquerade.
I love it. X,
and D Kalban at Threads, Instagram, most other places. I'm also on Substack and also at D Kalban. And
cool. And to everybody out there, check out the show notes down below. I'll have a link not only to the Kickstarter page, so you can go on there and click the notify button so you know when it goes live and all that, but I'll make sure to also add Daniel's link tree as well, so you can find all the fun stuff he has.
It's easy to find it through that anyways.
Yeah.
Yes. So you'll have both of those to click through. So make sure to check those out. Daniel, thanks so much, man, for stopping by. Like we both said, the book looks cool, and best of luck with the launch of it.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you so much for having me on.